Thank you for attending the August 26, 2024 meeting of the Westerville City Schools Board of Education. This evening's agenda will be displayed on the screens in the front of the room. Printed agendas are available for our guests, or you may find the agenda on your mobile device by connecting to the district's website at www.wcsoh.org. Click on the Our District link, select Board of Education, and then follow the board docs link to our current meeting agenda. There will be two opportunities to address the board this evening, the first being agenda item 6.01. The first set of comments is relative to agenda items 7.01 through 11.02. Please state the agenda items you're referencing at the beginning of your comments. And then the second opportunity is agenda item 12.01. There's a sign-up sheet located on the table in the back of the room. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to address the board. A timer will be shown on the screen. And with that, Ms. Marshall, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Davidson?
Here.
Dr. Desterbaker?
Here.
Mrs. Valentine?
Here.
Mrs. Altman?
Here.
Mrs. Meyer is absent.
Yes, she regrets she's not here, but she's ill this evening, so. Okay, so moving on to agenda item 2.01, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And moving on to 3, district highlights and recognitions. We love this one. Agenda item 3.01 is summer graduation. We are so thrilled to have some summer graduates with us. So I'd love to pass it off to Ms. Baldwin.
Thank you. Good evening, Vice President Altman, members of the board, Superintendent Hamburg, and Mrs. Marshall. I have the honor of welcoming you and our visitors this evening to the Westerville City Schools Summer 2024 graduation ceremony. We are excited to recognize these students who have recently completed their graduation requirements and will be receiving their high school diploma this evening. After our superintendent confers the diplomas, each of our high school administrators, including Westerville Central's Assistant Principal Eric Nickel, Westerville North's Assistant Principal Shayna Wade Argus, and Westerville South's Principal Mike Kinsey, will come forward to congratulate and recognize graduates from their building. Graduates, as your names are called, you'll come up and be recognized by our board and audience this evening. All right, and so that will have the conferring of the diplomas.
Vice President Altman and members of the Board of Education, honored guests, and proud families of the graduates of Westerville Central, Westerville North, and Westerville South High Schools. The state of Ohio establishes in law 2 requirements for earning a high school diploma. Number 1, the successful completion of a rigorous academic curriculum. And number 2, successful completion of all state of Ohio graduation requirements. The administration of Westerville City Schools has verified, and the Board of Education has unanimously approved their candidacy earlier this school year for graduation. And so it is with great pleasure as superintendent of Westerville City Schools that I confer to each graduate a Westerville City Schools high school diploma. Thank you.
I feel weird talking this way, but we'll do this. Hey, I'm Eric Nickel. I'm one of the assistant principals at Westerville Central High School. Tonight, we wanted to thank Superintendent Hamburg and Treasurer Nicole Marshall and our Board of Education for allowing us the opportunity to celebrate our students that have tried so hard and have now completed that trail of graduation. At Westerville Central, we have a Warhawk blueprint that we survive by, and that is to pursue greatness daily, be better together, and to own it. Those are our 3 pillars that we survive on, and all 3 of our graduates that are graduating this summer are definitely examples of all 3 of those. I'm going to specifically talk about Kion Heyman very quickly, just because he is here. I had the pleasure of being his admin when we were at Central, and I tell you, there's not a person at Central that survived through those pillars than Kion. Relentless pursuit of growth every day. came and fought and got through adversity and found ways to get it done, which is awesome. Anytime he needed help, Better Together, he came and got help, and he would just rely on the people around him to get through all this. And the last part was own it. A lot of people give up and they don't finish, and Kion owned it, and that's why he's here today. So thank you so much for letting me speak on his behalf, and thank you.
Vice President Altman, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Hamburg. Good evening. My name is Shayna Wade Argus. I am an assistant principal at Westerville North High School. It is my pleasure to be able to publicly say congratulations to all of our graduates tonight and wish them luck on all that they do in the future. To our graduates, on behalf of the entire Westerville North learning community and all our other district employees that have affected your life, please accept our congratulations for your accomplishment. We are very proud of all of the Central Warhawks, North Warriors, and South Wildcats who are becoming alumni this evening. I encourage you to continue to push yourself and keep moving forward regardless of the obstacles. Sometimes failure is an opportunity, sometimes it's an opportunity to grow or get better, and it will teach you how to succeed. Always keep the warrior way in the front of your mind. Once a warrior, always a warrior. Congratulations again, and please know how proud we are of you. Great work. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to our new graduate, Aiden Christopher Duran.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Kinsey, the principal at Westerville South High School, and I'm here to recognize Westerville South's graduates, neither of whom could be here this afternoon. Superintendent Hamburg, Treasurer Marshall, and members of the Board of Education, thank you for inviting us to recognize our graduates this afternoon. And to all of our graduates from Central, North, and South today, on behalf of the staff and students at Westerville South High School, we are proud of you for demonstrating perseverance in your efforts to earn your high school diploma. Not only have you challenged yourself to meet the rigorous requirements set forth by the state of Ohio and Westerville City Schools, but you have done it through difficult circumstances, never losing sight of your goals. An education is something that lasts a lifetime, and a high school diploma is something that you can never lose. We look forward to seeing what you accomplish in your next chapter of life. Congratulations. And although neither could be here tonight, I did want to read the names of South's graduates. They are Nurakani Abshir and Ahmed Noor. Thank you.
This time, our new alumni and your families are welcome to join Ms. Boss out in the lobby for photos, and you're welcome to come back after if you'd like to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you're also welcome to enjoy yourselves and celebrate the rest of the evening. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, moving on to agenda item, I have to look, 3.02, the recognition of Dr. Nancy Nestor Baker. Okay, so this is a moment that you have to have some notes for because Nancy has done so many things. So forgive me, but I have some notes. We wanted to take time to recognize Dr. Nancy Nestor Baker, who after 25 years of service is bidding farewell to her career as a Board of Education member for the school district tonight. Few things about Nancy. Nancy is the longest serving female board member in the history of the district. Serving on the board from 1991 to 2005, I do sometimes like to point out I was in high school when she started, and I'm not young. And from 2014 to now. During that time, she has served 6 terms as board president and 4 terms as vice president. She is also a product of the district, having lived most of her life in Westerville. She graduated from Westerville High School in 1974. I won't say if that's the year I was born. And
I did graduate early.
well, there you go. So, and is an honored member of the Westerville South Alumni Hall of Fame. Nancy, your passion, your dedication, and your commitment has made a significant impact on this district and our community, including all of us who've graduated from Westerville schools. So thank you. Thank you for all you've done to make Westerville City Schools a place where everyone belongs. We're excited for the new adventures that lie ahead of you and wish you all the best in your next chapter. So thank you, Nancy. We have a small token of appreciation because this is a 25th anniversary. It is specially chosen for that silver. So for the silver anniversary. We would love to hear from you, so I'm going to step aside.
Thank you all so very much. And thank you all. Oh my goodness, a sign. And another sign. Thank you all so, so very much. And another sign. Oh my goodness. Oh. So I don't have a flowery speech. I kind of put it off and now it's too late. So what you will hear is what's on my heart right now. In the last 2 weeks, so many people have come forward to share a thought, a memory, good wishes, a smile, a hug. It has been utterly flabbergasting to hear from so many of you. And I thank you forever, for every smile, for every hug, for every word. They mean the world. You know, we talk a lot about this being a school system. That's simply not sufficient. This is a place of people. Without all of the incredible people, the variety of people, the wonderful passion of people, there would be no system. It is the people who make up the schools, who make up the system. It is all of us together. A lot of people have said, oh my goodness, you must have seen a lot of change in the time that you've been on the board. And yeah, there has been a lot of change. Much of it wonderful, some of it very challenging. But there is much more, much deeper that hasn't changed. We are still who we have always been. We are still a community that cares deeply about its children, about its students, about its schools, about the lifeblood of its community. Whether we agree on this thing or that thing or we don't, it is us, and that doesn't change. So our bedrock remains solid, and I hope that it does for many, many years to come. It has been a joy to be part of all this, to be part of you.
And I thank you. I thank you all. And that's enough.
Getting my workout tonight. Okay, moving on to 4, reports. We have 4.01, the Employee Wellness Plan, and Ms. Bishop is here to tell us about that. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Good evening, Vice President Altman, members of the board, Superintendent Hamburg, and Mrs. Marshall. Thank you for allowing me to present the district's Employee Wellness Plan for the 2024-25 school year. The Employee Wellness Program is an initiative to improve and promote the health and well-being of our employees. We recognize the benefits of wellness initiatives for the employees of Westerville City Schools and aim to provide information and opportunities that can improve their physical, mental, and financial health. The Employee Wellness Program is funded by a credit of administrative fees by Anthem, our health insurance carrier, and all funds are run through the district's self-insurance fund, not through the general fund. Before you is an overview of the programming available to our staff for this school year. Opportunities are available at no cost to staff, and some opportunities have an incentive offered for completion. Using feedback gained through 2 surveys sent to staff during the 23-24 school year, we are working to highlight the topics of interest to our employees, increase our available challenges in Westerville Education Day offerings, and provide more information about general wellness, our insurance programs, and our employee assistant program offerings. And at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Bishop. Any questions? Great, thank you so much for your great work on that. I think it's really valued by our employees, so thanks. And then moving on to 4.02, we have the superintendent's report. Ms.
Thank you.
Hamburg.
Thank you very much, Vice President Altman. I just have a few items this evening. I'd like to start by congratulating our new graduates, and also a big congratulations to Dr. Nestor Baker on your time served on the board. I didn't get to work with you very long, obviously, but appreciate the support and the time that I was able to spend with you in that role. Do have a few thank yous. I'd like to thank our staff and our students and all of our families for a great start to the school year. It's hard to believe our last meeting 2 weeks ago, we hadn't even had the first day, and now it feels like we've already been back at it for a while. I do want to address, we did have to do a modified schedule today due to some transportation issues, and so I just wanted to share, that's always a challenge for us when we have to do that. I know our transportation director just presented on this last meeting, and we talked about how that's something we try to avoid. But unfortunately, due to the shortages that we have, sometimes doing that early release at least keeps us in school and keeps us from having to cancel school or from having to scale back to the state minimums on transportation. So we appreciate everyone's patience on that as we continue to do our best to try to get those routes covered. And then I wanted to point out, we had some handouts at the back. We do have a ballot issue on. I know we've presented on that different times, but that is November 5th. There is information on the back table if you didn't see that when you came in. And we also have our website up and running for the ballot issue, so I would encourage you to check that out. There is a button right on that main page, as well as information there about our community forums that we will be having over the next month. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out on that. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And so we're going to move on to, I might need my glasses here so I can read this, to 5.01. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting held on Monday, August 12th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Any changes, comments, edits? Okay, Ms. Marshall, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here, although I did watch it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, and moving on to 6.01, our first set of public comments. We do have one person signed up for those. So for this set of public comments, comments offered at this point on the agenda are reserved relative to agenda items 7.01 to 11.02. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to address the board. Please state the agenda item that you're referencing at the beginning of your comments. A timer will be shown on the screens, and Mr. Dorn will call time when 5 minutes has elapsed. As always, please keep your comments professional, avoid the use of inappropriate language, and refrain from identifying individuals in the event of a complaint. Please address your comments to the board and not to the audience. And so we have one person signed up, and that is Phyllis Magold. Okay. Please come to the podium, and please just make sure that the microphone is on. There's a little, it says push right there, if the green light's not on.
Hello.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I wasn't sure whether I'm appropriate for the number on the agenda, but the assistant superintendent told me I could talk, so. I'm so happy to be here tonight, Dr. Baker, to honor you and to thank you for 25 years of service to the students and parents and staffs of Westerville City Schools. Your stamp is on every major success that the school district has achieved over the last 3 decades. 4 new school buildings, award-winning curricula, community cooperation, passage of levies, inspirational and motivational speeches to students and faculty, steering us through contentious redistricting. All of these were done under your watch. Most of them were a result of your leadership. Your legacy of success and dedication will be unmatched for many years to come. You and I have often disagreed on district issues, remember?
Yes, we do.
Sometimes vehemently, but never, ever, ever have I doubted your integrity and your commitment to the students of Westerville City Schools. I have always viewed your actions, and I have viewed all of them, to be ethical and intelligent. Now, here it comes. Knowing all of this, imagine my shock as I watched the school board meeting last year when 2 school board members stared at you with oh so self-righteousness and indignation as they accused you of being unethical. And good Lord, they even implied she committed a felony. A felony! I have observed and been active with many school boards over the years, and I will tell you that I have never heard anything more stupid at a school board meeting.
So, Ms. McGold, I'm just going to remind you.
I didn't mention any names.
No, I know. Just,
Well,
appropriate language and not name calling.
I didn't mention any names.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now I lost my place. Well, I'm going to continue. Okay. As I watched the video of the meeting, I realized it was not only what I previously said. I believe it was vindictive. I believe it was mean. I had always hoped that Westerville would not be touched by the malevolent environment that has seeped through political discourse, but that school board meeting showed me that we are not above that evil fray. Just to be clear, for those who may not have been aware, Dr. Baker cast a yes vote for contracts awarded to a list of people. As it happened, a family member was on that list. The motion passed unanimously. That means that Dr. Baker's vote had no bearing on the outcome. It would have passed without her vote. Only takes 3 votes. There were 5. And yet, despite Dr. Baker's 25 years of service without scandal or a hint of unethical behavior, despite the fact that her vote had no bearing on the outcome of the contracts, some members of the board decided to go after her, and they filed a breach of ethics complaint with the State Board of Ethics and made sure that news venues covered the story to include the possible and ridiculous accusation of felony. And how did you handle the situation, Dr. Baker? You handled it like you have handled every single conflict and issue that you have come across in the past 25 years. You handled it with grace and dignity. You spent your past year as a board member doing what you have always done, working endlessly for the betterment of Westerville schools. I took a look at your Facebook page and began to read the hundreds of people who expressed their gratitude. One of them stood out, and I'd like to read that. Dear Nancy, I don't know of anyone who so exemplifies the spirit of Westerville as you have for these many years. You have given selflessly to not only our kids through our schools, but our entire community. And we are a better city because of you. I don't know of anyone who so deserves to retire knowing you did a job well done. And I also don't know of anyone who will be missed more. I join, Nancy, with the hundreds of people who have messaged you, with the many people here tonight, and the thousands, not hundreds, thousands of people who have voted for you and placed their trust in you throughout the years. We know you, we appreciate you, and we acknowledge the outstanding legacy of success and dedication you have achieved. Thank you, Nancy Nestor Baker, for your impeccable, ethical behavior and contributions to Westerville City Schools.
I don't think so. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. And we are going to move on to 7, our financials. 7.01, could I please have a motion and a second to approve the financial report and investments for June and July of 2024?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Marshall?
Yes, thank you, Vice President Altman, members of the board. So we have 2 months to go over this month because we only had one meeting last month. So for the June 30, which is actually the end of our fiscal year, 2024, for the general fund, we had year-to-date receipts of $217.4 million and year-to-date expenditures of $235.7 million. We ended with an unencumbered general fund balance of $156.8 million. For year-to-date receipts for all funds, we had $334.8 million, and for all funds, year-to-date expenditures of $345.7 million, and we ended with unencumbered fund balance for all funds totaled $224.8 million. For the month of July, which is the first month of the new fiscal year 2025, for our general fund, our general operating fund, we had year-to-date receipts of, I have this, 42.4 million, and then monthly expenditures of 72.2 million. We ended with an unencumbered fund balance of 168.7 million. And for year-to-date receipts for all funds, we had 50.2 million, and year-to-date expenditures for all funds of 23.7 million. And we ended with an unencumbered fund balance for all funds totaled 231.2 million. And that is what I have for my monthly report. Any questions?
No.
You ready to vote?
Yep, we're ready, thanks.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes. Okay, and then moving on to 7.02, may I have a motion and a second to approve the purchases in accordance with ORC 5705.41 and Board Policy 6320?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Marshall?
Yeah, thank you again. So these are what we call the now purchase orders. So this is where we have a purchase order that is in place, put into place after an invoice date. Anything in excess of $3,000 requires board approval in order for us to pay it. We have 2 presented to you this evening. One is for our food service department for an annual fee for the point of sale service through Titan software. And this was just a case of where the vendor changed the billing date. It had historically been in July, and they moved, or had been in August, and they moved it to July. So that purchase order was opened later. And we do have the funds budgeted for that out of our food services fund. And then we have one for the Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities for our preschool department. And this was for transportation for out-of-district placement for some of our students. And the original purchase order just was not enough to cover the full purchase. We ended up having a greater need than what we anticipated. The funds, again, were budgeted, but just not put into the purchase order in time. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Are there any questions? No. Ready to take a vote? Thanks.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes. It's approved. And then moving on to 8, the personnel consent agenda. Could we take 8.01 to 8.09, or do we need to pull any sections out? Okay to take it all? Okay. Can I have a motion and a second to approve 8.01 through 8.09?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and Mr. Cooper, welcome.
Yes, good evening, Vice President Altman, members of the board, Ms. Marshall, and Ms. Hamburg. This evening's personnel consent agenda includes action items with regard to resignations, contract status changes, one-time pays, and other employment-related decisions. I have an exceptionally short presentation for you this evening, but just wanted to take a moment to thank each of our coaches, advisors, and volunteers for the work they're doing this year to provide extracurricular and co-curricular opportunities for our students. So many individuals, as noted in the approvals this under item 8.09 this evening, give an incredible amount of hours of their time to our students and student athletes. And I just wanted to take a moment to extend our gratitude for the work that they do. At this time, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Are there questions? None for me. Nope. Great, thank you so much. Ms. Marshall?
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes. And moving on to number 9, old business. We have 9.01. May I have a motion and a second for the approval of, this is the final reading on policy 2266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs or activities.
So moved. Second.
Are there any comments or questions or, okay. You can call the roll.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes. And then 9.02, we need a motion and a second. This is the final reading for policy 5111.01, homeless students.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Okay, ready for vote?
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes. And moving on to 10, new business, we have none this evening. So we move to 11, standing business 11.01. May I have a motion and a second to approve donations?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Marshall, do you have anything to?
Yes, so I do not have it pulled up in front of me, but we have a total of $16,893.59 so far this year. And again, first month of the year, so.
Great.
Last year, prior total received was $301,669.15. Just, we have a very generous community.
Really
We're very
fantastic.
thankful for.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, ready for vote?
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes. And 11.02, can I have a motion and a second on the settlement agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Please call the vote.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes. And moving on, oh, thank you. Okay. Okay. Now we are moving on to section 12, public comments. Let me get myself reorganized. I have a lot of papers up here. Okay, this is the second set of public comments. And so for this set of public comments, each speaker will have 5 minutes to address the board. A timer will be shown on the screens, and Mr. Dorn will call time when 5 minutes has elapsed. Please keep your comments professional. I like to remind myself to speak as I would in front of children. Avoid the use of inappropriate language and refrain from identifying individuals in the event of a complaint. Please address your comments to the board and not to the audience. We do have a lot of people signed up tonight. It's, I don't know, some number of pages that is something like 3, 4, 5. We would be here for hours if everyone took their whole 5 minutes, so I'm just going to say that up front. So what we're going to ask is that if a speaker before you has already expressed what you plan to say, please feel free to get up and let us know that you agree with that speaker. Give us your name, your address, let us know you agree with them, and feel free to just take your seat, and we will note that that's the opinion that you wish to express on that. So also, if you have handouts, please give them to Mr. Dorn. He will get them to us. He's got a nice little folder to put them all in. And we also ask that just because we have a long list here, we want to keep order, that you refrain from shouting out or expressive noise so that we can hear the speakers and so that we can move quickly. Okay? So that said, we are going to get started, and I will try not to lose our place on here. Please forgive me ahead of time if I have trouble reading your writing. So if I ask you to help me pronounce your name, please understand that's, I'll appreciate that help. So, okay. So our first speaker is Ashley Fischbach, and please correct me if I pronounce your name incorrectly. Thank you.
Good evening, Vice President Altman, members of the school board, and Superintendent Hamburg. Thank you for your time. I look to you with respect and as prominent and important leaders in our community. My name is Ashley Fischbach. I have called Westerville home for 40 years. I attended Westerville City Schools K through 12, and my husband and I now have 2 boys who are on track to do the same. Over the years, I have been an elementary classroom mom, a Kings Island band troupe chaperone, a career day presenter, and a concession stand helper. I am a cardiac ICU nurse, and I love my profession that takes care of any human being that comes through our doors. I share these things to hopefully provide context. Additionally, I am the Assistant Director of LifeWise Westerville. As part of my role, I observed all 30 LifeWise classes that served 297 students last year. These classes are wholesome, uplifting, and fun. I highly esteem our team and only approve of team members that I would feel comfortable and confident working with my own children or my nieces and nephews. I have lost track of how many students have told me their LifeWise Day is their favorite day of the week. I am personally addressing the board tonight because it is a matter of public record that one of our school board members openly shared her regret of the LifeWise Westerville program. The implication of such a comment puts the release time for religious instruction policy at risk. The RTI policy was adopted by the school board in 2009 and revised in 2016. LifeWise Westerville did not require board approval to begin the program in 2022 because the RTI policy was already in place, and we operate soundly under Ohio law. I value the district's RTI policy, and it would be damaging to the Westerville community at large if it was rescinded. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that LifeWise Westerville aligns with the goals and purposes of Westerville City Schools and its strategic plan. The basic purposes of public schools are outlined on your Westerville School Board website. One of these purposes is, and I quote, to help each student develop an appreciation for personal worth. LifeWise absolutely does this. Complementary to this is the 4th dimension of the Westerville Schools strategic plan. It says this: community, parents, students, and staff are engaged as partners. LifeWise aims to be a positive and peaceful partner in our community and an optional, engaging choice for parents and students. It is important to remember that we can hold more than one thing in our hands. I hold in my hands respect and love toward all people. I also hold a strong personal belief that Jesus is Lord. His birth, death, resurrection, and promised return matter to me on a daily basis. Because I can hold more than one thing, if you do not agree with my personal belief, that is okay. In response, I still extend respect and neighborly love. This is what we teach in our LifeWise classrooms. I have been perplexed with how LifeWise has been portrayed recently. There is no hidden agenda. The LifeWise character trait of love is defined as this: choosing to support and care for others whether or not they deserve it. And the LifeWise character trait of respect is defined as recognizing the worth and value of something, handling it with intentional care. It is also important to remember that we can have unity without uniformity. I am unified with the school district's motto to be a place where you belong. By its very nature, belonging demands diversity. My family is an international family. 50% of my family of 4 hold dual citizenship. I value diversity. I see it as a strength to Westerville, and it is something I look for in a school district. Where you belong will not look the same for every student, but I too want every student to have their special place of belonging. One student may find their belonging at LifeWise, while another student finds their belonging in music or art or sports or elsewhere. I celebrate that, and I urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on our list, we have Ross Adman. Is that correct? Ottoman, sorry.
That's fine.
That's an EL, got it.
I answer to a lot of things. Vice President, Superintendent, Board, thank you for your service. It's an honor to speak to you today. My name is Ross Ottelman. I have had the pleasure of being the lead pastor at Quest Vineyard Church for the last 15 years. The majority of my congregation is Westerville School District, and they have asked me to speak on their behalf tonight. Additionally, I am the one who brought the pastors of Westerville together to actually begin LifeWise Academy in Westerville. And I know you've heard many negative opposition comments of late to LifeWise, almost entirely misunderstandings, misrepresentations of what LifeWise is teaching, and honestly, misunderstandings of constitutional principles. As you sift through these voices of conflict, I urge you to focus on the central issue at hand. It is the heart of democracy. Democracy is founded on protecting the people's voices to express their beliefs and say it without penalty. This freedom is safeguarded by the separation of church and state, ensuring that state neither imposes a specific religion nor does it impede the exercise of faith. The Supreme Court has clearly, repeatedly affirmed that release time religious instruction, like LifeWise, does not in any way violate the Establishment Clause. Instead, RTRI programs justly respect the rights of parents who voluntarily choose to have their children participate. It's voluntary, no one's forced, with the state's role being one of accommodation, not endorsement. In other words, the state's role is to actively work to protect these rights, these freedoms, and to not take sides. And that means a certain amount of administrative cost is involved in the state's duty to protect these rights, and without that administrative cost, these rights will not be protected. As someone with extensive theological education, including 2 master's degrees and a doctorate from regionally accredited top 20 institutions, I can assure you that the concerns about LifeWise as a cult, as some have said, or as a smokescreen for a political agenda are unfounded and completely disconnected from reality. The curriculum used is used by one of the most prominent publishers in America. There are somewhere between 100,000 and 200,000 churches in America who use this curriculum, regardless of whether they fully agree or from different streams of faith within the Christian tradition. Additionally, I personally witnessed Students who would typically ignore classmates with disabilities or social awkwardness, who, because of LifeWise's teaching on loving your neighbor as yourself, now actually actively reach out to them. And we have some of those people who are in our church now who before were isolated, and now they are actually included in meaningful, loving, caring relationships. I can't think of a healthier form of inclusion than that. Still, with all that said and all the noise, this decision comes down to one central issue, namely upholding the Supreme Court and the state of Ohio's well-established guidelines is a legal obligation, if not a moral one, of this board. To strip the freedom from 14 churches in Westerville who support LifeWise and the many other churches whose children and families have chosen to have their children go to LifeWise, representing thousands of voters and tens of thousands of people in our community, would be tantamount to not denying them their constitutionally protected choice and would raise serious questions about the board's commitment to democratic values. See, ultimately, this isn't about whether you and I share the same beliefs. It's about protecting all citizens' rights, including those present who oppose LifeWise. To strip the right would set a dangerous precedent. It would mean whichever entity comes to power in this board could strip whoever they disagree with of their right to freedom of religion and freedom of speech. So I respectfully urge you to maintain the religious release time instruction policy, allow LifeWise and any other institutions that want to do the same thing to thrive within our community in the future, regardless of their beliefs, because that's what protecting freedom of speech and freedom of beliefs is about. It's not about what beliefs are expected. It's about the ability to protect those. Thank you for your time, for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Adelman. And next we have Dawn Green. Y'all can hear me? Dawn Green. Okay.
Good evening, Vice President Altman, School Board, and the Superintendent Hamburg. My name is Dawn Green, and my kids attend Westerville City Schools. I wanted to come to speak to you today because of the misinformation that was brought to the last board meeting. 2 of my children have attended LifeWise for the past 2 years. My son is in a specialized learning unit, and at first when I went to sign up my daughter for LifeWise, I questioned them and was like, I don't know if you'll take him because he's special needs, but they welcomed him with open arms. And he definitely does have a different communication style, so his sister was not at the same time, but they still allowed him to come, and he thrived in this program. So I can definitely say that LifeWise is very inclusive. The following year, my son stayed in the program, but unfortunately, we had to move my daughter back to her home school. One of the biggest reasons my daughter didn't want to go back to her home school is because it did not have LifeWise. And every week I listen to both of my daughters ask me when LifeWise will be in their school. Even though LifeWise is biblically based, it teaches great character traits that I believe every child should be displaying in school, whether they are Christian or not. Like love, respect, compassion, honesty, forgiveness, and kindness. I can also say that my children are friends and interact with non-believers, others with other religious beliefs, and members of the LGBTQ community. We have also hosted foreign exchange students in our home for the past 2 years, and I am very adamant to include anything that inclusivity is very important to me. And it is important for them to respect and understand others that see things differently than them. If any other organization would do something like LifeWise does by transporting children to an outside organization to practice their religious rights during non-academic time, I don't think it would be questioned. So why are we questioning something that has been in place since 2009, way before LifeWise even existed? I really hope that you take heart the good that LifeWise does in our community and continue to let it thrive in Westerville as an opportunity for students. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Green. And next we have Becky Leach Seymour. There we go. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Becky Leach Seymour. I am a resident of Westerville and the parent of a 4-year-old who will be entering kindergarten in 2025. My spouse and I are both from Central Ohio, and after living abroad for a number of years, we moved back to Ohio to be near our family. When we were house hunting, Westerville was one of the only suburbs that we considered buying a house in because we were very excited about its diversity and the excellent schools. My family loves to travel and learn about new countries, people, and cultures. In addition to spending 5 years living abroad, my daughter and spouse are dual citizens of both the United States and Italy. We were very excited to learn that Emerson Elementary, a magnet school focused on developing globally aware and responsible world citizens, is just a short walk from our new home. We plan to enter our daughter into the lottery for Emerson when she reaches first grade. When it was announced that Emerson Elementary would be one of the first schools in Westerville to allow LifeWise Academy to remove students during the school day for Bible class, I immediately began paying attention. I was raised evangelical Christian, and I attended private religious schools here in Central Ohio for almost all of my education. So I am very familiar with the evangelical Christianity that guides LifeWise Academy, and I'm very concerned. I'm concerned because LifeWise Academy was not created to serve Christian families. It is first and foremost an outreach ministry, evangelizing a specific brand of Christianity to children at a time when their parents and guardians are not present. The LifeWise website says that their work is to, and I'm quoting directly from their website, reach unchurched public school students with the gospel. This is further reinforced by the many examples we have of aggressive recruitment at community and school events, and children who attend LifeWise being encouraged to recruit their classmates with promises of candy, ice cream, and pizza parties. And I don't know about you guys, but there's not much my kid wouldn't do for any of those things. Our public schools should be safe spaces for students and families of all faiths. Instead, LifeWise is turning them into their mission field. I'm concerned about the children whose families do not send them to LifeWise. I am sadly not surprised by the stories that we are hearing of students using what they have learned at LifeWise to bully others, particularly our LGBTQ+ students and staff. My own family has experienced this particular trauma firsthand. My brother came out when he was in high school. When my family chose to embrace and affirm him, our evangelical church community shunned us. We were no longer welcome in our community. And I am very grateful that he found a safe space with his friends and teachers at a public school. Many of our Westerville students come from non-traditional families or are themselves members of the LGBTQ+ community, and they deserve to feel safe and accepted in their schools. The final concern I would like to share today is for our magnet schools. Families choose to enter their children in a lottery to attend a magnet school as an alternative to their assigned school. I am concerned about families choosing Emerson and Hamby not for their unique educational experience, but because they want their children to have access to religious training. How does that impact the culture of our magnet schools? Are we turning them into the district's unofficial Christian schools? This possibility has led our family to reconsider entering our daughter in the lottery for Emerson in favor of her assigned elementary school, which does not yet offer LifeWise. I believe it's important to learn about many faiths and religions that are practiced in our community and around the world. I believe it's important for our public schools to respect and allow for the practice of each student's faith. But I don't think it's appropriate to allow an organization to have access to our schools with the goal of converting unchurched children, their words, to their religion. Thank you.
Next, we have Alyssa Jones. Alyssa Jones. Thanks.
Hello, Vice President Altman, members of the school board, and Superintendent Hamburg. Thank you for your time. My name is Alyssa Jones. I'm the parent of 2 children in Westerville City Schools, a 5th grader and a 3rd grader. Next year, we'll add a kindergartner. Based on a board member's recent comments about LifeWise, I'd just like to share my experience. When our family first moved to Westerville, I was pleased to discover that since 2009, the district has had a release time policy allowing students to be dismissed during the school day for religious instruction. This is great news as it reflects Westerville City Schools' commitment to recognizing and accommodating the diverse needs of the families it serves from a neutral position. So thank you. By maintaining a release time policy, the school board acknowledges that every family is unique. You are welcoming families of all backgrounds and empowering parents to make choices that best align with their values and beliefs. I see tremendous value in my children attending public schools, where they form friendships with and hear new ideas from people who don't look like them, who don't think like them, and who don't worship like them. As a Christian parent, I see a tremendous benefit in having the option for my children to leave school during the day and legally attend Bible classes once a week. We've chosen LifeWise Academy as our means for this religious instruction, and we've seen our children's personal growth in biblical qualities like truthfulness, humility, gratitude, and forgiveness. Despite what you might read on the internet, LifeWise has no hidden agenda, and it's not a political movement. LifeWise simply provides parents with the ability to choose religious instruction for their children during school hours. The expectation should not be that release time is only permitted if the religious instruction is diluted to the point where it becomes generic and inoffensive to those who do not hold the same beliefs. Release time programs are a non-compulsory option, providing meaningful religious education based on the beliefs of the participating families. To remove a release time policy simply because not everyone believes in a specific doctrine, or to do so in response to misinformation and fear tactics, would be a slap in the face to religious families like mine. To do so is to take a radically anti-religious stance. I unashamedly follow Jesus, but I want to be clear that having a release time policy is not just about LifeWise. It's not just about Christianity. Release time is a long-standing and legally protected opportunity that's embraced by 75% of school districts across Ohio, protecting not only Christians, but our Jewish, Muslim, and Hindu friends too. I ask that you continue to honor religious liberty and respect the diversity of Westerville families by upholding the release time policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And next is Drew Cutts. I hope that's correct. Kutz, got it. Mr. Kutz, thank you.
I have to hold this up a little bit. Thanks, board. I don't really have a speech. I heard about this yesterday and thought I needed to speak. I wasn't born in Westerville. I never attended schools here. I wasn't even born in this country. But I have 2 sons and 2 stepsons who came through this school district, and they loved it. Thanks to all of you. You all had a piece of that, and you too. So they got a real jump start into life, and they're doing great. And you all can sleep well at night knowing that there's thousands of kids that you've done that. And my 2 kids are very autistic, as I think I am. I've never been diagnosed, but ask my friends and family, they say, yeah, you're probably autistic. So John, I should say his name, but he's barely verbal. He can speak a little bit, and he loves the Lord. He just lights up when I ask him about Jesus. He just loves it. My son David, my oldest, is gay, and he doesn't believe, and both are fine. I love them to death. We have some very interesting questions. David has stumped me more than once. He's such a smart kid. He's so much smarter than I am. He reminds me all the time. But they're definitely included, and he has nothing against religion, especially not against Jesus. Now, I have as many problems with some Christians, as the lady mentioned earlier, rightfully so. We have our piece of that blame for people not acting Christ-like and not being inclusive. And I know a lot of the people at LifeWise, and I volunteered there. I love it. They have one period that they can, the parents allow their kids voluntarily to go and get some biblical teaching. I was also a single dad with 2 autistic children, and any single mom or parent can tell you you're just treading water. You're by yourself. I learned that the planning of the week is so much more taxing than the actual going shopping and making food. It's the burden of that never goes away. So really didn't have a lot of extra time to do biblical teaching with my boys. I was just trying to get them fed and get them to bed and get them up and have their supplies and just keep my sanity. As any single parent would know, it's a tough way to go. So having something like this program where a lot of single parents, and there are thousands in this school district that volunteer to send their kids there. It's not just the 297 number. There's lots of LifeWises around, and thousands of parents choose to send their kids to give them a little bit of the light of Christianity and the inclusion. There's nothing more inclusive in the world than Jesus saying everyone's welcome. Every single man, woman, and child, gay, straight, doesn't matter, slave, free, you're all welcome to come with me. And it's a great organization. No organization is perfect. The accusations, there's always a little bit of truth in what they say, but it can easily get twisted a little bit to seem insidious. But I definitely back, as a single parent with kids who've come through this district. I live here now, but I'm not from here. But I do recognize that it's something that is a net good, as every, even secular theologian, secular scientists and secular education people in the academia will tell you that Christianity is a net positive to any community. And there are definitely Christians that act poorly, and it's Christians like many of the ones who are here, the majority in this room, that would be the first ones to call them out on their brothers. I have a few racist friends, and I plead with them every day that what you're doing is evil. It's evil because God made the person and God made their ethnicity. So it's a double dose of evil that you're doing with that. And so I really plead the board to allow this to continue. I'd love to keep volunteering myself, and that's about all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Virginia Davis. Virginia Davis. And just a reminder, because we have such a long list, if you feel like someone has said what you already want to say, please just let us know that, and then feel free to take your seat again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here. I am not currently a resident of Westerville. However, I did grow up in Westerville. I graduated from Westerville South High School in '74. And I currently don't live in Westerville, but I do want to tell you that I'm the director for LifeWise in Whitehall. And been doing that for 3 years now, going on our 4th year. And I completely agree with the speakers that have been here before me, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time. But I do want you to know that we started 3 years ago with 15 students with 1 elementary. We added the 2nd elementary. We've just ended our 3rd year with 2 elementary schools, and we had 598 students we served this year. And those parents of all those students signed them up, and we are in contact with the parents. We're improving our parents' communication all the time, and we love those kids, and we would never do anything to harm them. So LifeWise is there, and what I would like to do is just anybody in the room that would like to have a firsthand look at what we do, please contact me. Contact Jennifer Jury, who's the director here in Westerville, and we would love to have you come and spend a little bit of time just watching what we do. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Colin Heasley. Colin Heasley.
Most of what I said has already been said, so I will be very short. I just want to start by saying thank you, Superintendent, School Board, for all that you do. I don't envy what you do. I know it comes with a lot of responsibility to make difficult decisions. Something that my wife and I are finding out. We have 2 under 2, and we're realizing that there are a lot of difficult decisions that come with parenting children. With that being said, I recognize that today's educational system has grown and developed beyond just the public school system. Parents have countless options with which to educate their children. Of course, I can see how this would present new challenges to you as school board members, as superintendent, to this district. So I appreciate, again, all that you do and the decisions that you make. I recognize the weight and responsibility, as I said, that comes with parenting and how we choose for our kids, from example, who they spend their time with, to the activities that they're involved with, and ultimately the school that they will attend, which is why I want to thank you again for allowing something like release time for religious instruction in Westerville City School District. I was recently informed that there have been some misunderstandings, as we've heard this evening, regarding the LifeWise program, so I felt it was important for my voice as a community member to be heard. I actually have been involved with LifeWise for about several years. I've sat in countless programs across this state and in other states, and it is absolutely amazing to me to hear the positive feedback that not only comes from parents who sign their students up, from the students, but also even from the public educators within those districts, as they have been able to see the things that they're teaching within their classrooms from the character qualities that have been mentioned earlier, then are reinforced in the LifeWise program, and then how those things are enacted within the classroom. And again, it is overwhelmingly positive, and to me that is something that's remarkable, that a program could have so much positive feedback on that. I'm also here because I understand why not every parent would want to choose something like LifeWise for their student, and that's okay. However, the beauty of release time is twofold. Number one, as has been mentioned, it is inclusive. It allows any religion to participate. In Central Ohio, there have been a number of public schools. One that comes to mind is Upper Arlington. In years past, has actually had a group of Muslim students who've been able to utilize release time. The second thing that makes release time so unique is that it is a choice of each parent whether or not they want to decide for their student to participate. So even if there were 30 release time programs, a parent can say no to every single one of them. There's no doubt in my mind that having the parental choice for release time, an inclusive option, will continue to strengthen our schools and community and to help reinforce many of the qualities that our public educators are already sharing with their students. Again, I want to thank you for what you do. And I also want to thank those from the LifeWise program, because I recognize that to start something like this, they have had to sacrifice their time, their talents, their finances to make something like this continue and to continue to impact this community for a positive thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Doug Krinsky.
Thank you. I'll give you a little break. I'm not going to talk about LifeWise, so either way. But I am going to talk about the levy that's coming up, which I'm sure is near and dear to everybody's heart. I am going to say I'm disappointed, not unexpectedly, but nothing's changed in terms of redoing the projections or transferring back the $30 million back to the general operating fund. All that based on student population is down, revenue is up. This levy is asking for a 16% increase in our school property taxes, a 34% increase in salaries, a 57% increase in benefits, on top of the highest inflation, the highest interest rates. Seniors that can't afford to live in the houses that they're at, they're going to be asked to spend even more on public schools. I like public schools. I'm a fan of public schools. But to me, this one goes way beyond where it needs to be. If the projections were revised down to what the union contracts are currently enforced for at approximately 3% increases with benefits, that's fine. Nobody has to lose a job, but I think the projections need to come down, transfer back the $30 million, and we can use that in the operating fund to fund the school system. Unfortunately, because the $30 million has not been transferred back, I've opened up conversations with my state legislators about closing the loophole on being able to transfer money from the general operating fund to the capital fund. I think it's a loophole that needs to be closed. It's received a warm reception, and it's going to be another one of those things where Westerville is going to lead. But I think in the end, I hope that we close that loophole and any other transferring that's allowed to take place, because I think it's wrong. I think when we vote for a levy to be spent in a certain area, it should be spent there. It shouldn't be transferred when it's convenient and you want to make a change. So I'm just going to state the facts. That's what I'm working on, and I'm going to work real hard to get that changed. On top of, we've now formed a nice little group to oppose the levy, to defeat the levy, and I know the battle has begun, which is fine, but let's just keep it civil, and I will see you at the next meeting. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Next is Kathy Bowler. And once again, we are just maybe under a quarter of the way through this list. So if someone has already said what you'd like to say, please feel free to keep it short.
I will.
Thanks.
Good evening, Vice President Altman, members of the school board, and Superintendent Hamburg. Congratulations, Dr. Nestor Baker. Thank you for serving the families of Westerville. I appreciate the hard work and diligence it takes to lead our district. I'm Kathy Bowler. My husband and I have been in Westerville for over 25 years. We have 3 children that have attended Westerville City Schools from kindergarten through graduation with honors from Central. My family loves this community. I am here to talk about LifeWise Academy. Throughout their years in school, my children took advantage of the many programs, clubs, and sports that were offered. Programs like Lego Robotics, German Club, Future City, Chess Club, to name just a few. They learned of these programs from their friends or flyers posted at school. However, these programs were not sponsored, managed, or funded by the district. Like LifeWise, these programs and clubs were privately funded and managed to the benefit of our children. These types of programs were important to my children and many others in their development into young adults. Programs like these not only help them develop skills for chess and robotics, but more importantly, they help them develop their character in areas like respect, kindness, compassion, and confidence. It's these character qualities that had an enduring positive effect on my children. And it's these character qualities that the LifeWise program also teaches. I've witnessed this firsthand as a LifeWise volunteer in this district. The children who attend LifeWise learn respect, honesty, and compassion, as you've already heard. And it's done in the context of Bible stories. We're open about that. They practice these traits with one another in a fun and loving atmosphere. And I have seen shy, quiet students. At the start of the year, they blossom into smiling, confident children. And as a parent, I understand the value of that confidence for a child. I'm happy to be volunteering in a program that helps other families, just like the volunteers who helped my children many years ago in their various extracurriculars. And let me tell you about the volunteers, teachers, and staff. Child safety is our #1 priority. Volunteers and teachers undergo thorough background checks. We're required to complete video and in-person training in a variety of classroom, bus procedures, etc., to keep the children safe. There are strict procedures for transitions from school to LifeWise and back and forth, and how to handle any health and safety emergency. And I can tell you, over the last 20 years volunteering not only in this district, but in area programs, the training I received as a LifeWise volunteer is much more extensive than any other training or instruction that I have received elsewhere. I'm certain there are many parents in our district that value the LifeWise program and can see the benefits for their children. You've heard from many of them. They appreciate having the choice to send their child to learn about the Bible and to learn character qualities. It's a program of choice. Parents must provide permission, and it's choice that we're asking you to maintain. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Becca Meacham.
Good evening, board members and attendees. My name is Becca Meacham. My family and I reside here in Westerville. My son is actually a preschooler here at the ELC. And I'm here tonight to speak about LifeWise solely in regard to students with special needs or behavioral challenges. I would like to start by addressing what LifeWise says about students with special needs attending their program. I'm actually going to veer away from this because we heard they are inclusive, they are happy to have everybody. We've heard amazing stories even with children with special needs, and that is awesome. I'm here more to talk about the qualifications of the teachers. And I'm glad to see that LifeWise claims they are happy to accommodate. We've heard that here tonight. They're accommodating students with special needs, but the truth is they are just simply not equipped to do so. Classroom teachers and intervention specialists go through years of education and complete a college degree to be prepared and qualified to work with the students they serve. LifeWise teachers only need 2 years of classroom experience, and that is classroom experience in a school or a church setting being Sunday school. That alone demonstrates that they are not equipped to handle situations that may arise with special needs students in their care. Once a child walks out of the doors of their school, they are no longer protected by the policies of that school that were explicitly written to keep students safe. In fact, liability switches from the school to LifeWise, and therein lies the issue. LifeWise makes it clear that they are not affiliated with the school, and that is the reason they are legally allowed to implement their program during school hours, as long as it is off campus. And as an unaffiliated third party, LifeWise also does not benefit from using school resources as their own when behavior issues would arise. Once LifeWise assumes liability for students in their program, they do not get the luxury of the school resources. I would like to quote from the LifeWise Teacher Handbook, and I quote, "Before possible behavior conflicts arise, determine if there is a school principal, counselor, or other personnel who would be willing to receive non-compliant students. Inform his classroom teacher and/or parent or guardian and explain the situation. If a student refuses to follow the rules after being removed from the classroom or becomes non-compliant, the student should return to school. If the student is non-compliant, call the school and ask for assistance to escort the student back to the office." My immediate thought was, some of them are walking, but some of them are busing, and how is there kind of enough time for that? LifeWise also has written in their handbook that their teachers should reach out to various members of the school for help should such situations arise. Again, LifeWise is an unaffiliated third party operating off of school grounds. To be so bold as to write about the presumption of school intervention in any way in their handbook is audacious and problematic. This would further gray the area between the school and LifeWise as separate entities. Per LifeWise's own claims of being separate from schools, resources unavailable to them would include the following: students' aides attending the program with the student, communicating with teachers or other school staff regarding children's IEPs, 504 plans, or other personal documents, and collaborating with the school principal about children's behaviors during the program. This line is already becoming blurred in a school here in Westerville where a student's aide spent the last school year attending LifeWise with them. This aide is an employee of the school, not of LifeWise. It is not their job to provide support or time attending a program that is off campus and unaffiliated with the school and their job title. This was very troubling to hear. To the matter at hand, does LifeWise have protocols for dealing with behavioral issues? According to their website, and I quote, "LifeWise classrooms prioritize the safety and access of each student. Behavior that compromises either student safety or success is addressed through our redemptive behavior policy, and 2 adults volunteer in each classroom with any behavior issues." Mind you, volunteers only need to pass a background check in order to work with students. The volunteers are the ones primarily there to help children with special needs, yet they hold even fewer credentials than the teachers. This is extremely concerning. In addition, this redemptive behavior policy was nowhere to be found on their website, at least it was not named explicitly. However, a behavior strategy I did find in the teacher handbook states, the first approach a teacher should use is to, and I quote, "ask prayer warriors to pray for students with significant behavior challenges, for the LifeWise teacher and the student's public school teacher."
Mr. Meacham, time.
Thoughts and prayers are not a suitable method for dealing with children with special needs. Thank you.
Next, we have Lauren Moore. Lauren Moore. I'm going to make an additional offer that if you have written comments and you want to abbreviate your verbal comments, you can feel free to hand Mr. Dorn your written comments and we will read them.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of LifeWise today. My name is Lauren and I'm a parent of a 3rd grader and 6th grader in the district. I grew up in Westerville and am a proud graduate of Westerville City Schools. I had the distinct honor of working as the lead interior designer on Wester Village, the playground area, and the administrative offices in this very building. I worked with a team of architects on all building improvements throughout the district. I am deeply invested in Westerville City Schools, not only as a former student and parent, but also as a professional who has contributed to the district I grew up in and remain actively involved with today. I first heard about LifeWise in May of 2022 and wanted to learn more, so I attended one of the LifeWise 101 meetings. I would encourage anyone with questions or concerns to attend one of these sessions. During the informational session, I learned that LifeWise teaches and encourages character traits using the gospel, such as confidence, kindness, compassion, responsibility, love, and patience. I understand that the district values and believes in the worth and dignity of every person, recognizing their right and ability to learn and contribute. The district also upholds the principle that every student should have equal opportunities to access and participate in all educational offerings. Additionally, the district values fostering opportunities, embracing diversity, and the importance of lifelong learning from and with each other. LifeWise provides a unique opportunity for all children, offering them a moment in their day to focus on what they believe and value alongside peers who share similar beliefs and values. LifeWise is inclusive and welcomes all students with their parents' permission. In my opinion, LifeWise program comes alongside the district in their mission, vision, and values. My family has been praying for LifeWise to be available at our children's school. I have witnessed firsthand the success of LifeWise at other schools in the district and believe it enhances the social and emotional well-being of the students who attend. These students are learning through God's love to be kinder, more loving, and compassionate. What if the result is that they are filled with more hope and joy? What if they develop greater patience and self-control? I believe the impact could be that more students have a positive experience during their school day because they are learning to love each other better. I wholeheartedly support LifeWise and its mission to nurture the hearts and minds of our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mary Milton Sanchez. Hope I'm reading that correctly. I'm going to assume you have a long walk. Yeah.
Thank you to the Board of Education and the administration for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Mary Mitten Sanchez, and I have lived in Westerville for 10 years. I have bachelor's and master's degrees in education, have served as a public school teacher for a decade, and have served Ohio principals in an educational nonprofit. I currently work as a stay-at-home parent to my 3 children, ages 4, 2, and 1. Education and the care and development of young people has quite literally been the bread and butter of my life. I'll never forget the evening my husband and I first toured our home, and when we walked through the row of hedges at the back gates, our yard opened up to the playground of an elementary school. That was the moment I was sold. I could imagine our future children playing out there and going to school one day. Last year, that dream became a reality when my son began attending Westerville's Early Learning Center at Point View Elementary. I'll also never forget the day I saw a big red bus pulling up to the school that said Bible education during the school day. Consider my curiosity piqued. However, the more I learned about LifeWise, the more questions I had about a program, about how a program like this could be the best thing for the students in our school community. My first issue is perhaps our most basic guarantee to families, that their children will be safe while they're in our care. This program leaves too many questions about the safety of our students. Safety drills, secure entrances, locked doors, public access, medications, EpiPens, uncredentialed instructors, liability, and mandated reporters are just a couple of things that come to my mind when I think about regularly sending students off campus to a place like this. There are just too many questions about the facilities and facilitators to put our students at risk in an unmoderated off-campus environment. The second question is regarding the timing and logistics. As a person who supervised many field trips, it's difficult for me to understand how we could plausibly and safely transport a group of students off campus, have meaningful interactions, and then safely return them to school within the allotted time. If we aren't missing instructional time, do we have maybe an hour or an hour and a half tops? The disruption of the day is a logistical headache for attendance secretaries and office staffs in our schools. And most importantly, the potential for loss of instructional time and special time, particularly in the post-COVID era, is too great. Westerville is lucky to serve a vibrant, diverse student population. To remove students for a religious club, which could easily be held outside of school hours, chips away at the separation of church and state that is paramount in American public schools. It also creates the potential for students of different faiths or no faith at all to feel ostracized and unincluded. Our educators work so hard to cultivate relationships and school community, and our policies as a board and as a school district should support those efforts. Removing students from the school community for something like LifeWise disrupts these efforts and leaves our students of different religions vulnerable to bullying, harassment, and ostracism. I implore our administration and board to reconsider the allowance of a program such as this into our schools with our most precious of resources. Please suspend this program before it starts in September. It's not too late to curb the risks that are posed to students this year. And please, from the bottom of my heart, I ask you to do your duty and do what is best for kids. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Paul Bauza. Is it Bauza? Sort of. You'll have to correct me. Apologies.
I get it all at that.
How do you pronounce your last name, sir?
I want to make sure I get to the right place here. Boza.
Boza. Okay, thank you.
You know, the big OSU football players, almost the same. Anyway, school board members, superintendent, good evening. My name is Paul Boza, Westerville resident for 20 plus years with 3 children that have went through the Westerville public school system. I have a few points just real quick from the best research I could do out on Google. Many years have passed since 1952 since the U.S. Supreme Court ruling which allows our children to have the option upon request to receive religious training along with their regular public school day. Just to be clear, I want to pose 4 rhetorical questions. No public school funding is consumed by this activity, correct? No public school facilities are used for this activity, correct? No public personnel are involved or impacted by this activity, correct? This is solely a personal decision for the student and their parent or legal guardians. Therefore, no public school officials should have the right to restrict this private citizen's activity, or is this school board trying to make religious decisions for our children? I have a grandchild that may soon be attending school here. I pray God will allow me the strength and ability to pick him up and get him to any personal activity that he and his parents decide is best for him. In closing, with Ohio House Bill 445 currently being considered for approval, should this decision be delayed, as it may need to be overturned shortly after it is enacted? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Boza. Next, we have Alban Feeney.
Good evening. I'll try and make it quick.
You know, I'm a 2-year Vietnam combat veteran, and if I was really honest, when I heard about this a few days ago, the first thought that came in my mind was the 18 and 19-year-old kids that died right next to me, and it really, really bothered me. And the reason it bothered me is they fought for everybody's right to their own opinion, and that's fine. If people don't want LifeWise, that's fine. It's voluntary. You don't have to have it. But they fought for the right of the ones that want to have it to have it. It's as simple as that. And I've coached kids for 42 years now. Basketball, baseball, soccer, all of it. I hang around children and dogs. I got issues with adults, but children and dogs are good. And, you know, I think I have a pretty good read on kids. And I've been in a lot of organizations, the YMCA, you know, all sorts of coaching. And I can just share my opinion. I have never seen more loving people and caring people than the people in LifeWise. And I don't know how this all started. I don't know the background. I just heard about it. So I just came to give my spiel. But the bottom line is these people love these kids. They would do anything for these kids. The characteristics they teach them are all beneficial to every other student in the district because they can learn from the kids that are going to the program. And I'll just finish with this. In a perfect world, I'd like to see the 300, there's a bunch of adults here throwing things back and forth. I'd like to see the 300 kids sitting up here and ask every one of them what they think of LifeWise. And I know it would be unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tobias Gordon.
Good evening. Thank you for listening to me today. My name's Tobias Gordon. I am a graduate of Westerville Schools, K through 12. My wife is as well. Went to Ohio State, moved out of state a few years, came back here. I have a second grader here at Hanby who is thriving there, a preschooler who will be starting at Alcott next year, and I have two 18-month-old twins, almost 18 months, who should be, I hope to be going through Westerville City Schools as well. I moved back here because I love Westerville. I love the school district. I am deeply invested in the area. I volunteered in the classrooms. I volunteered with First Robotics 1 year as well. I am extremely concerned about LifeWise, the impact it's having at my school, at my child's school, and elsewhere in the district. I will gloss over I'll skip a lot of points, but the ones I wanted to make is my son has received material from LifeWise several times at school. The way it was presented, it appeared to be school-sponsored. He has also received encouragement from other students to join, which I understand to some extent is somewhat natural, that if someone's excited, you want to share something with you, but I am concerned that they are using students, encouraging them to proselytize for their religious beliefs in the school setting, which I find deeply concerning and deeply upsetting. I have spoken as best I could with my child to explain what the situation and my view of it, and my wife's view. And when I've tried to look into more details of LifeWise, I understand that, it is incredibly difficult to find their information without providing a good bit of your information yourself. Their website, you are apparently able to request their curricula, which I understand is a relatively new thing after a certain lawsuit that is currently in. But my view is that if there is something, I would like to be able to see what is being offered to my child more than vague platitudes on their website without having to provide them my information. There's an extreme lack of transparency here that I find also concerning for something that is occurring on school time. I would like to be able to see what they are talking about, what they're addressing, whether or not my child is involved. I cannot provide an informed informed decision for myself and my child's best behavior without understanding what they're, without knowing what their curricula is stated as. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Ingrid Biederman.
Good evening, Board, and thank you for allowing me to speak with you. My name is Ingrid Biederman. I'm a resident of Westerville, a certified teacher. During my education training, I had several placements within the Westerville school system. I substituted for Westerville for about half of a semester. And I am concerned with LifeWise. I went to look up their information on the internet and through YouTube, and I have witnessed and watched several example lessons, particularly one that was given on August 25th. I'm happy to email that video to you all to give you an example of what the students are being told. In this video, an instructor of LifeWise is sitting with a group of several children from 1st to 5th grade, years of age, and they are discussing God's, well, let's say wrath. The instructor asks them what happens, what is the consequence, and what should happen if you disobey God. And 3 children very enthusiastically scream, death. This is a LifeWise lesson. The instructor then goes on to reiterate that in several different instances and in just an ununderstandable, incomprehensible way of how this Christian value of Jesus and God love you, but they want you dead when you misbehave. It just doesn't make any sense. And the instructor in this video himself even admits that he is not qualified to teach. He has coached swimming, but he is not qualified to teach. His excuse for that is God qualifies those who feel the call. So just because he feels like he should be teaching about Jesus automatically makes him qualified. This is confusing for children. If my child had sat through this, they would be completely shocked and very concerned that they themselves, for doing anything wrong, would be condemned to death. This is a child who lost 2 very important people to them at a young age. He is very aware of death and its consequences. So I can only imagine if he is hearing things like this from the LifeWise staff or children bringing it to the school, because you know the kids are going to talk, and that is what they are told to do, is take what they have learned in LifeWise and bring it into the school. It is what the LifeWise directors and leaders of the program have shown in various videos that you can watch on YouTube and read in their own documentation. So I have trouble with the idea that this is coming into our schools and will be affecting our children. I'm sure some of the kids love it, because what kid doesn't love having candy thrown at them at the end of an instruction period as a teacher? We do that sometimes, and it makes everyone happier. But the appropriateness and the lack of training that these instructors have is very concerning. Also, coming from my teacher experience, if LifeWise is pulling kids out of school just for lunch and recess, I am curious as to how often this disrupts the continuing education of the students once they re-arrive. Is LifeWise always on time? Because as in my personal experience, anytime that there was any differentiation from the routine of the school day, it has caused issues. And it can cause issues. So I'm asking the board, if you haven't already, go into the schools, ask the teachers, ask the principals, ask the ask the other staff there what their experiences are. Have they noticed any issues in delay of starting back up classes after LifeWise has returned, or has it caused them issues to get everyone collected onto the buses? So, thank you.
Next is Giovanni Campbell.
Hi, my name is Giovanni Campbell. I won't be for you long. I'm a little nervous and I don't have a long speech. My daughter is a second grader at Point View. This will be her second year attending LifeWise. She's really excited about it. Thursday is LifeWise Day. We always make sure we have her t-shirt ready. She has nothing to say but positive things. As far as disruptions, all the students that are going to LifeWise, they head down, either grab their lunch or it's packed, and then they head straight. There's been times where I was trying to make sure that I made it on time to lunch to make sure she had her lunchbox there. And this was my first time actually seeing them actually like get together to go. It's a smooth ride. She's also never ridden the bus. So when we talk about the big red bus, that's really exciting for her because that's the time where she's actually able to ride. They go down to the office, they're able to go get their things, and then they ride to the school. There's never been any mention of anything being disrupted when it's time to head back into the class. And she's never said that she's missed out on any lessons or anybody got started without her. So I think that the biggest thing is kind of Westerville's saying of where you belong. And it's any different than someone playing sports or having an after-school activity or for something during the school. That choice is the biggest thing that anybody's able to make. And I think that it would be different if there were parents that had complaints about FlightWise or their students attending. But if there's complaints that are coming from outside people that don't know what goes on the inside and that they're not necessarily aware of how things operate, then that's something to consider too, because the biggest thing is the choice. And I think that if you take away the choice and then option for students to be able to participate in something, then that says a lot too. So just like you sign up for the YMCA, you sign up for any other camp, whether it's the Boys and Girls Club, this is a place where you can belong. And if you feel like that's something that's best for your child to participate in and the child wants to, then they simply don't. And I would like to just lastly say that LifeWise has such a freedom to it that there's been days where my daughter didn't feel like going. No one harassed her. No one said, hey, what are you doing? She wasn't felt condemned not to go. She just simply didn't want to go. And then the days where she did, her and their other classmates would go along too. So I think it's just a matter of choice, and that just boils down to everybody's free right to decide what they do want to do or don't want to participate in. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Todd Lotz.
Good evening, Dr. Chapman, school board, staff, and other members in attendance. My name is Todd Lotz, and I am a proud 7th grade parent of a student at Minerva Park Middle School, as well as honored to be called to serve as the vice president of our PTSA. First off, I want to thank you, Dr. Nestor Baker, for your 25 years of service. We've had some good conversations in the past, and you know, we've come to mutual respect, and obviously in life, not everyone's going to agree on everything. So I want to thank you for your part in making this district the best district in Ohio. The main part of my speech, and I was reminded of where you belong, is what I observed 2 weeks ago that unfortunately I wasn't able to, but I did watch, and what I've listened to and observed is the speeches, the conversations going on, and I'm kind of trying to put a different spin on it. And honestly, what I found was embarrassing because I really feel like, regardless of what side of the fence that you're on, this is about the students. It's not about us as adults being selfish, greedy, and say because we don't agree with a certain lifestyle or whatnot. And I'm saying this out of spirit of transparency. One, I'm a follower of Christ. I'm not perfect, and neither is anybody else. Number two, I have relationships. I am a uncle and have brothers and sisters that are of the Jewish faith. Number three, I have friends at work and throughout this area and around the country, around the world, that are of many faith and lifestyle groups. I love them just the same. I'm proud to be a parent that cares about seeing not only our students achieve, but also try to do my part to make our district the best in Ohio, which I believe to this day, and I've said it before in private conversations, we are the best district in Ohio. But what I have seen, to me, I'm trying to say this in a respectful manner, was embarrassing, full of hate and discrimination that does nothing but punish our children of all ages. Doesn't matter, elementary, middle school, or high school. So let me pose this question, something to think about. If this were any other religion beside the three-letter word, which is a forbidden word more and more in this country, or a cult, or a lifestyle, anything outside of Christianity, would we be getting up in arms or singing a different tune? My prediction is no. Something to think about. As I continue to read a certain post the day after the last board meeting, it's just amazing just how much it was more adults acting more like younger than our children are, and all the hate. And I posed a question in this chat that just something to keep in mind, knowing that there is now a opening on our school board. Simply, the question was basically pertaining to, for those who were complaining, and there were a lot, if you want to make a positive difference, there's an open board position. And let's run, put your name in for consideration, so something to think about. I anticipated a bunch of responses. I got no responses to that from either side, yay or nay. What I've chosen to do is try and make a positive difference, at least in my child's school, as best I can, not being perfect by any stretch. One, by getting involved. I'm outside my comfort zone serving as a vice president of PTSA, because that's not in my wheelhouse. Choosing to encourage all kids, supporting all kids, regardless of race, age, sex, creed, across the board. Doesn't matter if you're Hindu, Muslim, a child of God, we're all loved the same. Something that we as adults, and I'm guilty of that as well, have failed over the years. In closing, I just want us as adults and as a board to think about these things. One, is our constant hate, animosity, biases that we are exhibiting really helping our students or punishing them? And I'm speaking to both sides, those that are pro-LifeWise and those that are anti-LifeWise. Number two, if we have this much passion for something, then what are we doing to put our money where our mouth is and become a positive difference maker to all of our students? And as adults, we all must do better. We all must set an example, and I'm speaking myself as well. We all must take responsibility for all our faults and shortcomings, and we all must be better, or else all we're doing is punishing our kids and showing them that Westerville Schools is not where they belong. Thank you.
Next, we have Jennifer Jury.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Jury, and my family and I have lived in Westerville for almost 15 years. I have a bachelor's degree in education, and I served in Westerville City Schools for several years as a substitute teacher, state testing facilitator, and student success coach before accepting my current role as the program director for LifeWise here in Westerville. I'd like to address several points of misinformation and some misconceptions about LifeWise that have been stated by members of the public in this and the most recent board meeting on August 12th. I'd also like to note that all the points you've heard were from those without an actual student in LifeWise programming or any personal firsthand experience with the program itself. It has been said that programs like LifeWise violate the separation of church and state, and I won't belabor that point because, as you've heard, LifeWise Westerville has operated for the past 2 years in legal compliance with the RTRI policies of our district. And despite what alarmists on social media would have us believe, RTRI is neither new nor controversial in Ohio, and 75% of all school districts in the state have an RTRI policy in place. Students' expressions of faith at school are safeguarded by the First Amendment. In fact, while I was employed in Westerville City Schools, I commonly saw students' religious beliefs and practices being respectfully accommodated in the school building during the school day without any controversy or questions from the community. For example, during the roughly 30 days of Ramadan, special accommodations were made for students who wished to practice their religious observances during their lunch or music classes. Similarly, any students enrolled by their parents in LifeWise classes this year will attend roughly 30 lessons, but outside of the school building during their lunch to participate in religious conversations and activities. They will not miss any instructional time at school, and they'll be engaged in activities that support their family's religious education choices. I'm confused why there's any question about whether all students and all families should be afforded such a choice. It has been said that LifeWise is an extremist organization with a hidden political agenda. Word choices like these incite fear and unwanted division in our school community. LifeWise is very transparent about what we teach and why we teach it. We have no political agenda. It's been said that LifeWise students are prone to bullying or shaming of peers from non-religious or non-traditional families. This flies in the face of everything LifeWise values. We agree that if there were incidents of bullying that occurred, it would be imperative that those be addressed. What I'm having trouble figuring out, though, is the fact that our LifeWise Westerville program did not receive a single email or phone call regarding any bullying incidents this past school year. Either they weren't reported by a parent or a principal, or they didn't actually happen. Of course, we know that bullying is different from peer-to-peer conversation. As noted earlier, students have the right to engage in conversations with their friends regarding their faith. At all times, the tone taught and modeled in the LifeWise classroom is always one of extending love and respect to all people. In regard for the concerns that students sometimes enthusiastically share invitations with their peers to attend LifeWise or talk about the things that they've learned in our classroom, we've decided this year to discontinue using any paper handouts or invitations for our students, and so nothing will be sent home with the students when they return. Our gospel-centered, character-focused LifeWise curriculum is fully accessible for public review on our website, or we invite anyone to contact us anytime to schedule a visit in our classroom or come and talk to us about what's being taught. I'd also like to point out that LGBTQIA+ topics have never been part of our LifeWise curriculum, and all students are welcome to be enrolled in LifeWise classes. Last week, the father of 2 Hanby students who attended LifeWise last year asked me why LifeWise is suddenly being portrayed as controversial. He told me that every week he read the emails we sent out outlining his children's lesson content and talked with his children about what they had learned in LifeWise. Based on what he saw and heard, he considers LifeWise to be a group of people that love Jesus and want to teach kids good character. He's right. We love Jesus and we love the gospel, the good news that through Jesus we have access to a free gift of eternal life and a restored relationship with God. And because of this, we want to teach kids good character. In light of these facts, which I'm also going to share with you via handout, I'd like to invite you to please consider only what is true about LifeWise. Thank you again for your time.
Next is Jacqueline Fraley.
Hello. I want to speak to those today who say, I'm Jacqueline Fraley. I am the mother to a first grade student at Hamby. I'd like to speak to those who say this is a choice, that you only get this if you sign up for it. However, we know that LifeWise will not just stay within the classroom at LifeWise. The goal is to spread what is said into our schools. And I want to speak to how this affects children who don't attend LifeWise because they belong to a different faith. Bribery, something that causes undue influence. Today I saw a video of the LifeWise director of Wasson, Ohio, discussing how it bugged him that only 50% of the students were enrolled and his plans for recruitment. I will save the time of trying to play the audio for you and send it to your emails. The video showed the director that he was unhappy. He gave them business cards, which I'm happy to hear will supposedly not be passed out this year to students here. He also told the students that if they brought a total of 90 other students from the school, they would be rewarded with an ice cream party. I would like to share a personal story. Last night at bath time, because that's where all good conversations happen with your 5-year-old, my daughter looked at me and said, "Mommy, when I'm older, I still want to be Jewish." I looked at her and said, "Well, of course." And I asked her why she decided this. And she said, "Because at Hanukkah we get gelt." For those that don't know, gelt is a traditional gift of chocolate gold coins given to children at Hanukkah. My daughter is 5, and she wants to be Jewish because she gets chocolate, not because of the stories and rituals or deeply held faith displayed to her by others. I mentioned to the board at the last meeting my concerns of coercion for attendance and the risk of future bullying that can occur with my child and other children because of the LifeWise program. To quote an earlier speaker this evening, the tenet of LifeWise is love the person whether they deserve it or not. Here's the thing, the LifeWise program is teaching these students who those sinners and those who do not deserve the love are. The speaker last week spoke that bullying has already occurred with her own child. And of course, I have heard tonight that there's a chance that this wasn't reported, so it was made up, a story that has often been used by women. And there were no briberies or methods deployed at LifeWise. This program here states it doesn't happen, but how does anyone know what's going on? LifeWise states that bullying isn't tolerated, but as earlier mentioned, they teach that those who believe that they are wrong, the lesson you will see emailed to you by the other speaker, are going to hell, and death to those who disobey God. I ask again on the families of the District of Children of Not of Christian Faith to suspend the affiliation with the LifeWise program, to change the RTRA rules so that children are only released with a parent or guardian to attend such programs, so that parents and guardians may very closely observe what is happening in these programs with their children. LifeWise has the choice to continue with students, to give the same choice to students of education, the same choice to give these students the same opportunities as an after-school program. LifeWise has chosen to refuse to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, we still have a number of speakers remaining. We've been doing this for about an hour and a half. So I'm going to go ahead and call their names, but I really encourage you, if you're going to repeat what other people have said, come up, say, I agree with so-and-so, or this is my position, and then, please move on. So next is Alex Meck.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, superintendent, treasurer. I'm here to talk about something that I'm sure everyone would love to hear about, which is legal liability. Please don't fall asleep. When you review the LifeWise waiver, it indicates that you're waiving from LifeWise their responsibility for acts, omissions, negligence that could result in all risks of injury, disability, death. You also covenant not to sue for any injury, pain, suffering, temporary or permanent disability, or death. Okay, so what, Alex? Like liability waivers, we sign them all the time. Well, the Ohio Revised Code provides that in order for the district to permit a reserved time for religious instruction program, and this is true under the current law where it says the board may, and it would be true under the proposed law which would require the board to do so, the board must still make sure that the program assumes liability for the students. LifeWise's waiver does not assume liability for the students. What does this mean? If a child's hurt at LifeWise, I'm not saying that has happened, but it could happen. It could happen in any program, right? If a child is harmed, who's going to be sued? Parents have already agreed not to. They've already waived liability as to LifeWise. Well, what entity let LifeWise take possession of the children without assuming responsibility. The district did. So my question is, who's responsible for the children if they get hurt?
Thank you. Next is Kevin Kinlan.
Hi, Kevin Kinlan. Thank you. So just 2 points that I have real quick. I'd like to answer that because of being an attorney. Negligence is not part of any waiver. That's for the district. That's for any outside whatever. You're still legally responsible. The second thing is the right and the choice. We want to choose, and we choose. We choose to go to Westerville schools, or we don't. I live in Westerville, but I can decide. I can go to St. Paul, I can go to somewhere else. But we choose. So we're choosing also what to let our kid do. And ultimately, I'm the one responsible. So people can be unhappy about the safety, but the thing I tell my 2 boys every day, and actually one of my boys doesn't go, one of them does. So they got a choice, but I tell them every day, I'm the one in charge of your safety. So if I'm deciding, then I'm the one liable. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Jefferson.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Brenda Jefferson. I'm just a mom. I have 3 young kiddos. I echo a lot of what the folks in this room just said about LifeWise. Under the 1952 Ohio Supreme Court, it's upheld RTRI. And like other programs, it offers for the holistic well-being of students who attend. It gives families the option to participate in the program. The program promotes love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control. I think we can all attest that those are positive, virtuous attributes that every child should possess, regardless of what religion. For families such as my own, we hold Jesus at the center of our home and in our hearts. And we are busy. We are a busy family, 3 young kiddos involved in multiple activities, 2 full-time working parents. It gets chaotic. And to have this as a resource is so encouraging. Like the other gentleman stated, it is privately funded, held off school property, requires parental consent. All of this upholds separation of church and state. There's been commenters saying that they host pizza party and give out candy. Well, name me a club that doesn't. I mean, this is child engaging. So this is not new, this is not novel. And if you as a parent don't agree with those things, or just have different beliefs, or you don't think that the teachers are qualified, then by all means, don't send your students and don't sign that consent form. It's a pretty simple choice. Lastly, I'd like to state just a couple of data points that support LifeWise. As you might see on their website too, you can see that attendance actually goes up for those students who participate in LifeWise. Violence goes down, which is an end result of decreased disciplinary action. And lastly, academic performance actually goes up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Deja Dunning.
Good evening, members of the Westerville Board and Superintendent. Thank you for allowing me to speak today about the importance of the LifeWise program, the importance of, as we heard, to our community as a whole. So I'm a resident of Westerville as well and a graduate from Westerville South High School, and I have 2 children attending Westerville City Schools. My son on the track K through 12, but my daughter's a recent transfer from a private school who now attends Hamby. So as a parent and a self-proclaimed lifetime learner, holding a master's and recently a doctoral candidate, I deeply value the educational choices available to my children. One of these important choices is that LifeWise program. So LifeWise operates legally by offering parents, again, I want to put the emphasis on the option to provide religious instruction to our children during school hours, should they, again, choose. This program is entirely voluntary. allowing parents to decide what aligns best with their family's values and beliefs. So removing LifeWise as an option would limit this choice, effectively narrowing the educational opportunities available to my family and others in our district. For many families, including mine, the ability to choose, again, LifeWise has a significant factor in keeping my child enrolled in Westerville City Schools. Again, as my daughter's she transitioned previously from a private school. So the option of LifeWise provides a balanced approach, allowing my child to receive both a strong public education and religious instruction without needing to leave the district. Moreover, programs like LifeWise support the Westerville City Schools commitment, again, to that diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our school community is made up of students from a wide range of backgrounds and beliefs. So by providing options like LifeWise, the district demonstrates a respect for the diversity, ensuring that every family's needs and values are considered. This inclusive approach enriches our schools and helps create a more accepting and understanding environment for all students. My child has been able to utilize values learned from the program, and not only her school environment, but home and church environment. It's provided her with a unique perspective on diverse school environment, to have a happy, open, and loving heart, and to give all of those around her grace and remembering to love her neighbor as she would herself. She's so excited to attend school knowing that she has LifeWise to look forward to. So by allowing this program to continue, you're supporting not only parental choice, but also the diverse fabric of our community. Removing this option would be a step backward, limiting educational choices and potentially driving families away. So in conclusion, the LifeWise program is more than just an option for religious instruction. It's a reflection of our district's values, supporting, again, that diversity, equity, and inclusion by respecting the various beliefs of families. Thank you guys for allowing me to speak today.
And next we have Amy Louise.
I decided to talk tonight because I did not come to talk about LifeWise Academy, but I wanted to talk about religious freedom. So I am from a very tiny religious tradition, and I grew up in several places. My dad was a career Army officer, and then my husband had a job that involved moving all over. But in the West, it was common in elementary school to have students who were Mormon have a place right beside campus where they could go after school. Likewise, when I was in junior high, there were several Jewish students. They always got released for their holidays, and when they came back and had missed class, that was not considered a burden. And so, I mean, I grew up seeing that, but of course it didn't affect me because nobody had even heard of maybe my point of view or my background. Then I went to school in Idaho and Oregon, became a high school English and foreign language teacher, and taught in rural communities in Oregon. And the Oregon Supreme Court decided that a teacher who was Sikh could not teach in the schools in Oregon because he was required to wear a turban in class. And I remember thinking, whoa, where's my religious freedom then? Then I went on to homeschool my children, which helped a lot with all the different moving because I never had to look and see if I could afford to live in this good school district. I could know that they were safe and what they were learning. And in various school districts, but notably in Ohio, I did my homework. I read all the homeschooling laws with the state. I knew what I was required to do and was very much prepared to do that. So when I arrived in the school district in Southern Ohio, I wrote to the school superintendent and said that we were excited to be here, et cetera, and that I was planning on homeschooling. I got a letter back telling me that they were going to oversee every single thing I needed to do, and I would need to go and turn things in. And I very politely replied, thank you so much for that offer, but I'll just live by Ohio law, stating the actual laws from the code. And I kept my distance, seeing that that person, in fact, did not want to give me my freedom, my legal freedom within the state to teach the way I wanted to. That went all the way through high school with my students. And so I learned that even though I had legal rights to do certain things, I would have to be able to articulate why I expected those rights to be upheld. I would need to be aware of my rights as an American, and in order to, I guess, practice my religious beliefs and expression. And then I went to Ohio State at the ripe old age of 57 and got my master's degree in social work, and discovered that in those classrooms, my religious beliefs were actually very much at the bottom of the gene pool, in the sense that it was quite common for people to make derogatory comments and hateful comments and things about what I believed, because we all know this, traditionally beliefs and what's popular and unpopular within the United States and other countries swing. It's a pendulum. You taught school in the 70s, taught school in the 80s. We went from do anything, be all exciting in English, to back to the basics. And then I'm sure it's gone back and forth since then. But the point is, I learned that I couldn't even comfortably join the National Association of Social Workers, because there were political statements made as a member of this group that I didn't agree with, in fact, that were quite disturbing to my religious points of view. So I couldn't be part of that. I just want to point out that in my life, I have seen that there are many times when I don't get recognized, my rights don't get put on the same level as other people's. And one of the things I value about being an American citizen is that we're supposed to have this freedom. So when I heard about this discussion, I just wanted to bring that up, because it's been a struggle in my life to be able to do my job, teach my children, and I guess exist and live at peace with the same rights as other people as far as religious points of view. And so I encourage you to abide by the law and give people the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Okay. And so I'm just double checking the list. I believe everyone has had their opportunity to speak. Thank you for your comments. And so at this point, we move on to 13 board comments, 13.01. Do we have any board comments this evening?
I do, and I can go first. I'm going to ask everyone, I move that we amend the agenda to consider a motion to suspend Board Policy 5223, absences for religious instruction, until the next meeting of the board.
Okay, so we would need a second.
Second.
Any comment or conversation, or should we just move to a vote on that?
I think we ought to say why.
Okay.
Why?
Just to change the agenda so I can make a motion for something else. That's what.
Yep.
This is just for the agenda change?
Yep.
This is just the agenda
The order of
change, just to be
business may
clear.
be altered and the items added at a regular board meeting by the majority vote of the members present.
Okay,
Ready to
please
vote
call the
on
vote. Yeah.
amending
This
the
is on the
agenda?
agenda change.
Yes.
Correct.
Amending the agenda. Okay. Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Thank you. And then secondly, I move that the board suspend Board Policy 5223, absences for religious instruction, until the next meeting of the board. I'm saying this for some compelling reasons. First, we've received new guidance from the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce that we cannot provide meals purchased or free and reduced lunch for our students to consume off-site part of any program. Also, the administration is working through some issues to determine if LifeWise program meets all of the requirements included in our policy, as well as the statute that allows release time for religious instruction. Okay. So
Mrs.
that was
Davidson, sorry, could I just clarify, the guidance that we received was that it has to be curricular related for school programming?
Thank you.
And so that was the motion.
Yep.
We would need a second.
Can I talk?
You want to make a second?
So we can make a
talk
second,
about
and
it?
then we can open, yeah.
Second.
Okay. And then we can have conversation now. Right, yeah. Please, if you had that.
No, I just joined the board in January. I was not here for RTRI implementation or the start of LifeWise, but based on conversations that we have had, new information, like you mentioned about USDA that has been brought to our attention, I do have some outstanding questions. And the more that I've learned about the RTRI policy and LifeWise, I don't believe that it would be prudent for us to proceed without more information. We need to cross the T's, dot the I's, and this is true for any religious group. This is not, LifeWise just happens to be the one that we're talking about right now. I personally don't care if you're a Christian, Muslim, Hindu, or you pray to the dust bunny under your fridge. I do not care. You do you, but we as a board have to make sure that any coordination is going to be safe and compliant for the sake of the students, the parents, the district. And unlike other kind of camps or extracurriculars, this does happen in the middle of a school day and not after. So there's some extra emphasis here on making sure that we get it right, so.
Other comments?
So let's be really clear about what suspending the policy means. So if we suspend the policy, then we are saying that LifeWise will not be conducting its program at this point in time. Is that correct?
Correct.
I just want to make sure that we're really clear so that everybody understands what's on the table. So the issue is to...
Hey, Nancy, can you turn your mic on?
Oh.
The green light is not lit. I'm sorry about that. What I was asking was what suspending the policy, what it would mean for LifeWise if we suspended the policy. And we are only permitted, as I understand it, to suspend a policy for the space of one board meeting.
Correct.
So suspending a policy doesn't mean that you suspend a policy ad infinitum. It has a very strict time limit. That's one piece. Piece number two then is if the board were to vote to suspend a policy, and we have voted to suspend other policies in the past, if we were to vote to suspend this policy for the time period of one meeting, during that time period, LifeWise would not be permitted to operate its program in the school. Correct?
Correct.
So that's what is on the table for discussion. So as I understand it, I think I understand it correctly, we are looking predominantly at two areas of legal compliance. One deals with food service, correct? The other deals with waivers, correct?
Those are two, but there could be more, yes.
Those are the two that we are aware of at this point in time, right? So what suspending a policy for the space of one meeting would do would be to provide a 2-week time period during which those issues would be resolved, because the policy would then come back into effect at the next meeting, correct?
I think we would come back with some more information to be able to make a better decision.
Yeah, but if we could only suspend for one meeting, then the policy goes back into effect.
Unless we would suspend it again, correct?
Multiple suspensions.
No, I'm not saying that's going to happen.
I know,
I'm just
I
saying
never
that-
thought about that.
that we need time to get our ducks in a row and continue to talk to our attorneys and make sure the kiddos that we are responsible for are being fed and are safe. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody on either side of the question would disagree with the need for the children to be well cared for and safe. But what I do wonder is what the impact is in doing this on the LifeWise program, setting aside the issues that we do need to look at. We need to consider those issues. What is the impact on the program? I do not know. Does anybody have thoughts about that? Angie?
I would say that if the policy isn't in existence, they would not have excused absences for the religious instruction. And I think the parents would have to directly come sign their kid out.
Okay. Okay.
And I also wanted to add just on because there's a little bit of confusion around the lunches. So I just wanted to provide the board with this is an evolving thing. So it was brought to our attention that we were not able to provide the lunches as part of the USDA requirements. So our food service director reached out to the state to ask. They initially told us it was fine. And then when they followed up and checked with the federal level, with the USDA, they were told no, that we can't, but that the state still has on their website. So I just want to add that clarification, because if you look, so they are still checking on that. So they could not give us a definitive answer, which was one of our areas of concern of how to move forward with that. So we are waiting to hear back from the state. But my last understanding is that it's not permissible unless it's related to a curricular activity for an off-site meal. So what that means is if we were to take our students on a Westerville field trip for a history class, for example, then they could eat off-site. But if it's not related to a curricular trip, that they're not able to. So waiting on confirmation, we don't know the exact answer on that, but that's the latest that we've been heard. And I think the board's aware that previously they have been able to take meals from the cafeteria, including the ones that are free and reduced, with them in to-go containers. So that's kind of one of the issues at stake.
So basically, in this 2-week time period, assuming there is not a multiple suspension, and I won't be here to deal with that, but in this next 2-week time period, then as I understand it, the impact on LifeWise would be, in order to continue the program as it somewhat exists, parents would have to come to the school and sign their children out. Parents would also have to pack a lunch. So basically, that's what it would be. Okay, so that would place at least a 2-week crimp in the program's operations, correct?
I don't have the exact date, but I think they were planning to start in September around the time of our next meeting, maybe the week before, so.
Okay, so it wouldn't be a full 2-week
Correct.
issue. All right. So it could result in, say, possibly a week delay. I'm just trying to work all of these things out because I want to be fair to these hundreds of students. I want to be fair to the construct of what we're doing. And I also understand that it is a requirement for us to make sure that we are operating legally. I think that the issues of legality and the issues of food service can be resolved fairly quickly. I would hope that we would be working not only with our attorney around those issues to develop appropriate language that meets the law, but also that we would work with LifeWise in order to ensure that they are engaged in helping to create a situation that works as well. So in delaying LifeWise implementation in September for approximately a week, in order to make that palatable to me this evening, I would want to know that we're going to engage with LifeWise on coming up with a solution.
We have met with them previously, and Board President Meyer was with us in that conversation. So happy to schedule another meeting after this to talk through what issues are.
On the lunch piece, can you just talk about, very briefly, I think it's really important that we take the time to figure this out, right? Can you talk about, we were contacted by USDA, correct? And so it was USDA and then we reached out to the state. I just want to make sure I have that.
No, thank you for asking that. Let me clarify. So it was brought to our attention that from a community member that they weren't sure that that was legal. So we wanted to look into that. And there was a little confusion because it was legal during COVID times. They kind of suspended some of the requirements
Yep.
around serving lunches in a non-congregate setting. So we were able then to look into where it was now.
Rules are back in place that didn't exist.
And quite frankly, the people at the state had to check because they were like, that's a great question. We haven't had that question in a while. So they reached out then and then told us it was okay. And then as they kind of dug in a little bit more, came back and told us it wasn't, but that doesn't align with what's on the website. So that's what we need to figure out. We don't have clear guidance right now.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. I want to
So-
make sure we straighten that out and kids get fed.
Yeah. So the motion is to pause, right? To pause for 2 weeks so we can do some more investigation and make sure, like I said before, all of our kiddos are being fed and taken care of. That's the idea.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'm still concerned about the possibility of multiple suspensions. That worries me on a policy approach to say, well, we'll suspend, then we're going to suspend, then we're going to suspend. To me, that's a good way to, whether it's this policy or any other policy, to provide a de facto way to stop something from happening. And I want us to be open, and I want us to be very transparent. I want it to be really fair about people's rights under the law and people's expectations for the way the district handles its policy. So I understand exactly what you're talking about. I don't disagree with the need to look deeply into what's going on to answer the legal questions that we have. That's incumbent upon us. But I do want to be sure that in answering those legal questions, that we protect the rights under law that others have.
Okay.
So that's where I am.
Yep. Duly noted.
Other comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Marshall, you can call the vote.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
No.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Thank you. I have one more thing, if that's okay, part of my board comments.
Okay.
So Greg V. Brantz, could you please come up here? So Greg V. Brantz has been in our district for 18 years and has been doing communications gig for a 35-year career. And this is his last meeting before going south. And we...
In more ways than one, probably.
I wasn't going to say that. But I just would like everyone to see you, to know, like, when you are receiving communication from our district, it's written by Greg. He takes a lot of time and he cares about this community and our staff and our kids. And you will truly be missed. So we really appreciate your 18 years and your time here at Westerville. He is also the one that started the saying, where you belong. So that's Greg, and this is where you belong, Greg. So good luck to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Other board comments?
I was going to say something about Greg, too. Greg, you'll always belong here. You know that. Hilton Head may call, but you always belong here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. We do know where to find you, so just remember that. And I just want to thank everyone for coming. I appreciate that in this community, we can have multiple opinions expressed and everyone stayed very civil. So thank you for that. Thank you for being kind and compassionate grown-up people who come and share your opinion respectfully. So. And moving on to 14, date, times, and locations of next meetings to continue the fun. The board will meet in regular session on Monday, September 9th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Early Learning Center here, 936 Eastwind Drive, Westerville, Ohio. And then 15, we are moving into executive session. So 15.01, can I have a motion and a second to move into executive session to discuss the appointment of a public official and employment and compensation of public employees? So moved.
Second.
Ms. Marshall?
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes. Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Ottman?
Yes. So we will move into executive session. No decisions will be made in executive session. We will come back here to adjourn, but there will really be no further business at that point. So, thank you.
31.
Okay, we have returned from executive session, and I need a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Marshall?
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes. We are adjourned.
9:16.